The enemy came into our world. Their only desire to extinguish all life. They slaughtered our loved ones.
Hey, buddy, watch this.
Yeah, folks, we got some demon-themed custom cards for Battlegrounds made by you guys. Like this one, Illidan the Betrayer from Lich Lord. This would be a new tier 5 minion. He's a 4/7 demon. And the battle cry reads, destroy a friendly demon, give all other friendly demons +4/+4. So we've got Illidan here captured pretty well. He kind of hates demon. He sort of has some demon friends. And I think this would be a really cool follow-up minion to help support demon builds in the style of like a tier 5 King Begurgle, for instance. But you've got some risk and reward here. You have to clear off some board space to get this really big battle cry to go through, which might not always be easy, particularly because there aren't that many small demons lingering around that are supportive for builds. You could chain into some Nathrazim Overseers, that sort of thing, and just keep cycling Nathrazims and Illidans to really stack up your big demon build. And now that Amalgam's out of Battlegrounds and Murloc Poisonous isn't quite as predominant as it used to be, big stats on demons just make sense, and a card like this would really help support that game plan. Moving on here, we have Axion from the Mattress Man, a new tier 6 demon support card. He's a 6/7, also a demon himself. He has Divine Shield and a Death Rattle. Give your demons Divine Shield. So here, tier 6 follow-up support card for demons is in the vein of something like maybe Gentle Megasaur, but this is not something that happens in the tavern. This is something that happens merely in combat, which really does change Axion here, because think about it. He has Divine Shield himself, and that means making this minion die is going to be a little bit challenging, because he'll attack, and he won't die off the attack because of that Divine Shield. So there's going to be perhaps a delay on his Divine Shield application to the rest of your board, unless maybe you can, say, give him Taunt, and then there are ways to activate that Divine Shield a little bit more consistently. But then cards like Voidlord maybe aren't as exciting because they might die in the meantime. So I really like this, high reward style payoff, but there's a little bit of a consideration for how do I make this work? How do I build around it? How do I really support Axion? And that's exactly what you need in Battlegrounds. But this is the kind of tier 6 card we need, I think, more of in Battlegrounds, that are just really big payoffs, build cementing sort of things, because still tier 6 is just not that exciting in most cases. And this is the Divine Shield support demons have always needed, again, to help them beat those poisonous things and help them utilize their big stats in a more effective fashion. Next up here, we have Off the Destructor from Fire 3/2/3, a tier 5 minion for demons. He's a 7/10, and he's got the basic cleave text here. So I think this one's a pretty simple design, right? But it is, again, something demons need to help them catch up with mechs with Foe Reaper and beasts with Cave Hydra, and this would be a perfect way to do it. And you might be thinking, like, wait a minute, this is just like objectively better than Foe Reaper. Why would this be tier 5? Foe Reaper's tier 6. I actually think that's a pretty important decision here, because Foe Reaper has more ways to get bigger faster thanks to Magnetic. You can magnetize big stats onto your Foe Reaper, so it's easier to really help it scale. Manoroth and demons don't get quite as big. Like, yes, you have Mal'Ganis on board perhaps to buff this. Yes, there are Nathrazim Overseers, but there aren't as many common or effective ways to buff demon stats as there are with Foe Reaper. So I do think it needs to be a tier 5 unit despite its stats being higher. You could argue that all you want, but I think this is an important card that could exist for demons, help them fill in some of the gaps that they currently have, although they are getting much, much better right now in the post-nerf meta. But easy, simple, but nonetheless an important and effective decision. Moving on here to Imposter from Dalaferferg, great name, of course. Tier 3 unit, it's a 1/1 demon, and it reads, after you play a demon, become a copy of it. So basically, this is a wild card that lets you double up units or find and play some really powerful stuff. Think about like Annihilate Battle Masters, for instance. Imposter could turn into a giant unit as long as you're able to play it or keep it on board. So maybe this is something you keep in hand, you wait for that key moment. Maybe it's something you just toss down and you're happy to utilize it, turn it into a tier 3, tier 4 unit anytime, like a Siege Breaker or something could be a great result. And it helps you move closer to triple plays and upgrading those units, or just complete your build with an extra Mal'Ganis or something too. And I think that's really cool. This is a minion that's just not good on its own, so there's a real downside to playing it, but it can scale up and become pretty powerful in the late game. But you have to commit some board space and some gold to get the payoff for this investment, which I think is an important aspect of it. Now, I do think the power level of this is fairly high. You know, it's got the ability to turn into much bigger things from a tier 3 standpoint, but I'm hoping the economy side of it balances that out. I think just the board space economy and gold economy aspects of it do help keep it in check, but share your thoughts in the comments below if you think this one's a little crazy, or really any card in this video. It's still hard to get a feel for what's super good or bad in Battlegrounds, because some of these things you kind of have to see in action to understand. So I'm curious what you guys think of Imposter. I think just, frankly, the name is great, the idea is fantastic, and it feels okay to me. So moving on here, we have Grand Warlock Ariza from Vlad. This is a tier 5 minion. It's a 2/5 demon. With a battle cry, give a friendly minion Death Rattle, summon a 3/3 imp. So, you know, we have a lot of buff cycling battlecry cards in Battlegrounds, but they always just attribute raw stats to the minion. And I like the fact that this one does something a little different. It gives it a +3/+3 buff, but it's a Death Rattle token instead of just stats. And that has a really important distinction for things like Mal'Ganis, because these 3/3 imps are going to get buffed when they come out of Mal'Ganis, but also, of course, Soul Juggler. And I think the Soul Juggler version of demons is really cool. And what this means is you can still go for like big statted minions, and you can then support them with Grand Warlock Ariza to turn those into additional bodies to just throw into your opponents, maybe just popping Divine Shields or activating your Soul Juggler. So it just takes the way we see stats currently and it shifts them in a little bit different direction for a Battle Cry cycle minion, which I think is really cool and befitting of demons currently in Battlegrounds. So I really like what this card offers, and I'm sure many of you will enjoy the artwork, so that's fair bonus too. Next up here, we have Tychondrius from Kizaru GR, new tier 6 demon. He's a 7/6, the battle cry that reads out a copy of a friendly demon to your hand. So another way to get demons that you're trying to find, and if you can't complete your build, Tychondrius would give you a way essentially to get another Mal'Ganis, another Island Battlemaster, another Void Lord, whatever it is that maybe you need to triple, or you just want to play one of those awesome big minions, and you can cycle out your Tychondrius to do that very effectively. Now, I do want to draw a comparison between this and Imposter, minion we already talked about, that's a tier 3 unit. You might say, wait a minute, Regis, these both have really similar effects. Why is one of these tier 6 and one of them tier 3? They both give you your demon that you're looking for. And I think the distinction there, and please feel free to contest or argue this point because it's very debatable, is that Tychondrius doesn't occupy a board space in the meantime. So for instance, if you're going to pull off an Imposter, you can really only have 5 minions on board, and it's a follow-up thing that you need to kind of set up or plan for. So you need to play the Imposter and then play that final unit. Whereas Tychondrius is more of a reward in a late game build that you only really need 1 board spot for. So you can already have 6 big beefy dudes that you've committed and built up over the course of the game. You can slam the Tychondrius, he's a battle cry, so you just sell him, you don't care, and then you play that final unit, and that creates some additional board slots. So I may be overvaluing board space restrictions here in the comparison between these two cards. I want to hear your thoughts. But for me, Tychondrius feels so much more flexible and as a kind of follow-up on a big late game build, whereas Imposter is kind of useless in the late game because you may not have those board spaces to make that work. So they are comparable. Maybe this should be like a tier 5 unit instead. Share those thoughts. Like I said, I'm still trying to narrow in on exactly how Battlegrounds cards are balanced. Really hard to see some of these things and understand how they work. So for me, Tychondrius makes sense, but of course, I want to hear your take too. So next up here, we have the Tomb of Takan from Koryark, and this is a new tier 6 unit, 0/5, and it reads, whenever a friendly demon dies, consume it, and then Death Rattle, release all consumed demons. So basically, as your board dies, this is storing up those units, and then when this finally dies, it's going to dump the board full of units that died earlier. So kind of like something like Kangor's Apprentice in a way that spits out a couple of mechs, except this is going to spit out a bunch of demons instead. And you might argue here like, well, that's just power creep. That's OP Regis. That's insane. I would argue, first off, demons need the help, perhaps, although let's see how this new meta shakes out. Beyond that, I think demons coming out of this are much worse. Think about like your prize demons, right? Like an Island Battlemaster. That's going to come out as a 3/1 on Tomb of Takan. Whereas if you think about, say, like a golden kaboom bot out of Kangors, that's still a pretty powerful unit because it's got death rattles. There's a lot of divine shields and mechs. So I think demons are less impactful if you summon a wide board of them than, say, a mech summoning off of Kangors. Plus, just the raw stats of this are a little bit worse as well. If it gets sniped early, it's absolutely garbage. And it has some board space problems. It's not like it's going to spit out 20 things, right? So even though there's a theoretical infinite cap on this, that never actually happens because of the cap on the board itself. So for me, this is a really cool way to support something like, you know, the Soul Juggler style or the Mal'Ganis style, where you just get some extra demons hitting the field, maybe 6 more for your Soul Juggler to just keep popping off. But you sacrifice a lot of big initial stats in the meantime, and I think that's a really cool idea, and another way to give demons a big centerpiece follow-up sort of thing for the late game. So for me, Tomb of Takan, a cool idea, and pretty neat execution, and perhaps a card that would help demons a ton. Next up here is Mecha Drax from Lying Haberlery 22. It's tier 4 demon 6/4. It captures the idea here of a mech and demon fused together really cool because your demons in hand are magnetic to other demons. Now, before I go on to this one, I want to say I think that's a little OP. It means basically every demon you could buy is a gigantic buff to your board. I mean, like Siegebreaker's just adding 5/8 in stats is ridiculous and scales super hard. Some demons are a little worse, of course. An Island Battlemaster without a battle cry wouldn't be particularly exciting, but so many demons are awesome. Just like Imp Gang Boss is really quite good. That's a buff you'd happily cycle with battle cry. It does require a couple board spots because you have to have the Draxus down and an open slot to play magnetic stuff, but it would scale so hard that I don't think that would matter. So I think you have to fix that in a couple ways. Maybe you make Mecha Draxus himself a non-demon so that you can't buff him, because as it stands right now, he's not really wasting a board spot because he can be a gigantic demon as well. So make him non-demon, make his stats weak so that you're wasting a couple board slots. That could help. Or maybe it's just something like the first demon you buy every turn is magnetic to limit the scalability. But I love the idea of the theme here. Fusing those two worlds together is really cool. Giving demons more applications for buffs and getting gigantic stats is really cool. So a lot about this is right as long as we fix the power level in one way or another, but I still wanted to capture this idea in a card, much like we'll talk about on the next card. Finally, here we have Sargeras, the Dark Titan from Catharsis, a tier 6 minion. It's a 12/20. I love the big stat line there. And it reads, your other demons have reborn. Now, I want to be very clear. I know some of you already left a hateful YouTube comment, and you're going to look dumb because I talked about it in the video. The way this is currently worded is a bit of a problem. What this would mean is every time a demon died, it would be reborn, it would come back, and it would instantly get reborn again because Sargeras has an aura style effect here, right? This should say something like your other demons gain reborn once to avoid that because he's just going to keep reapplying reborns. So every time a demon got resummoned off reborn, it would naturally just gain reborn again based off of this text. Now, reborn doesn't work that way in the game because there's no aura constantly reapplying it. So clearly a little bit of a wording tweak here, or maybe just, you know, code it into the game so that doesn't happen, because I think this is a really cool idea if demons get reborn once. If they get reborn infinitely, obviously you can't lose because you just have one taunt and it tanks forever and it kills everything on your opponent's board every time, unless somehow Sargeras dies to random effects off kaboom bots or something. Clearly that's not good for the game, but the idea of reborn happening once for every minion is actually really cool, I think, and again fits that Soul Juggler style where you just keep throwing demons at your opponents, and it's such a good fantasy fit too, just demons coming back if they don't die in the Twisting Nether is really, really fun and awesome idea, and Sargeras is just like a big awesome character. So much about this is currently awesome as long as we fix the mechanical issue, which is clearly a pretty big mechanical oversight. So I know, I see it too. It's okay, YouTube comments. I got you. Don't leave hateful stuff. I see you out there. But I want this card to exist in some fashion or another, just with a tweak to make it feel perfect. And there you go, folks. Some pretty cool designs here. I just want to reiterate again, I really did focus more on ideas and cool mechanics and good stories and great characters with these designs than raw balance. Obviously, I think a few of these are OP. Some I don't really understand the balance of, so because it's hard to envision them. I want your guys' feedback on all that stuff. That's my preference for card designs. If you're a stickler for balance, I could put some 1-mana 2/2 demons in there or something to make you happy. That's boring to me, so I chose what I chose here for the sake of my personal preferences. But let me know what you think. Well, how could we fix these cards if they are broken? How could we make them better? What do you like to see? All those fun things. Let me know what would be good for the game and what would be bad for the game. All that said, thanks much for watching, and until next time, game on.
Step aside.